What up, 12s? Adam here. Got something a little different for you today. Today, we are joined by Phil Leidick, the host of our What If program on the Seahawks podcast network. Not just the host, the creator of What If, a really fun, kind of quirky show. If you want to listen to some things regarding Seahawks that is a different style and a different take altogether, What If is the show to use. So be sure to tune into that when those drop. But we've got Phil here today. He's got some interesting questions regarding some of the topics floating around Twitter and that sort of thing. So we'll get into that in a sec. Phil, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm glad we can take another crack at recording this important show.
Yes,
we've been trying to get this last little tidbits in here before we head into draft week. It actually is draft week. Our first crack at it was a couple days ago, and my technologies failed us, and we didn't want to this is how much we love you listeners right now. We didn't want to blitz your ears with unpleasant crackly sounds. Come to the Seahawks family of podcasts where we care about your ears and that it comes through cleanly. And while our voices might crackle from time to time, we try our best to give you a quality product. And so that means doing it again. So we get to have fun a second time, Adam, don't we?
Heck yeah. And the thing is that I don't know that my answers are going to get any better. That's the scary part about all this.
You can pretend to be surprised. We waited long enough that it's almost a whole new surprise, as if you're getting asked these questions for the first time again.
Oh, absolutely. And with my memory, for sure. This is all like, just doing it all over again. So it's new it's like being on What If for the first time each and every time.
Yeah, it's always the first time. Yeah, and I did cancel something and added it because a couple things have happened since then. Mostly we loved our questions. You had awesome answers last time, so we set the bar pretty high. I was a little bummed to redo it, but now I've got hopes. I think you might be able to. One thing's going to happen. You're either going to clear the bar, you're going to run into the bar, you're going to limbo the bar. So we're sure that's going to take place one way or another. But I did cancel one or two questions and inserted some that I think might be a little more fun than what we had. So count yourselves lucky, 12s. It's even better this time. And we're going to jump in with the first half of the show dealing with what I'm calling the razor's edge. So my fine feathered flocker 12s, what Adam is going to do, these are kind of topics that are out there where Seahawk fans are close to 50-50 on in general. I mean, obviously there's some of us in the middle, but a lot of people, they're like really determined on one side or the other. And some of us, every 5 minutes, we jump back and forth across the fence on this, and we try to balance on the fence. And then if you fall, you get cut by the razor's edge. But the first one that I think is really, I would call it controversial in the world that doesn't matter, which is NFL football, but it matters to us because we love it. Mr. Carter, Mr. Jalen Carter. Adam, on Thursday night, we get our pick number 5, and you see the pick is in, and they say it is Jalen Carter. With everything you know about Jalen Carter and the Seahawks, will you be scared or stoked, Adam?
Whew, that is one of those razor edge ones for sure. It's very polarizing. I think that for me personally, I'd be stoked. It would be for a couple of reasons. One, I am desperate as a 12 for the Seahawks to go ahead and address that interior defensive line and or edge. If they ended up going edge, I wouldn't be mad either, but that's where I really want them to go first, because finding those big, physical, fast, game record type, blue chip type guys on the defensive line, you don't do that very often late in the draft. Those guys are almost always, top 10 picks and things like that. So if they draft Jalen Carter there, arguably the best player in this entire draft, if you just look at the tape, then they've done just that. Now, with that said, what about the character issues? Well, if they draft him at 5, that means John and Pete went through the process and are like, this guy, yep, it just a little misunderstood, had a bad experience with, that feels like it minimizes the car crash, a bad experience, but went through a really tough time and made some big mistakes in terms of that, and has come out the other side the right way in taking responsibility and all of those things.
That could be a factor in his bad workout too, right? Adam, don't you think, like, he's just days away from hearing this horrible news? You think that could have factored into his pathetic workout performance?
Yeah. After I started thinking on it, I was like, dude, if you're going through all this stuff, one of your good buddies and, another good friend who was actually driving die in a car crash that you're partially involved in some way, and the legal process on top of that, plus the pressure of being in the NFL draft, trying to fulfill that lifelong dream and all of that, like all of that coming down like a crucible on your head, like all at once. Yeah, I could see how a dude who's 300 odd some pounds could put on a whole 9 pounds and maybe not have done his wind sprints for a couple of weeks because he's stressing. I could see that. What about you, man? How do you feel about it? What if Jalen Carter came at 5? How would you receive that news?
Oh man, I argue with myself all the time on this. And here's what I think I'm finally settling on as we're just 3 days from the draft. If it was me, knowing what I know, I wouldn't take him because I don't know that he loves football. But here's my other side of it, and here's why I'm fine. I trust John and Pete to really vet this idea of, does he love football? Is he going to give it his all? Because they learned a lot from the Malik McDowell experience. And I know these are a little bit different, but if there's one thing they care about, and over in the last couple of years of John interviews, you can see they're not messing around with guys that aren't, if they can't prove to them that they're going to love football, I don't think they'd take him. I think that might be who he is. But if they take him, immediately my confidence is, okay, John and Pete are fine with him. Let's go. Because I love watching Jalen Carter when his head's in the right space. This is going to be fun to cheer for, maybe the next Cortez-ish Kennedy type player for our team.
He's still my beating heart. Like, if that did happen, like if he could become 3/4 of a Cortez Kennedy, I would be thrilled. But yeah, you do have to just trust John and Pete, because what do we know about Jalen Carter at, like, me and you and every other fan out there, right? I mean, we don't have him in for a top 30 visit. I mean, I'm not picking in the top 10 personally. I don't know about you, Phil, but I don't think you are either.
No, I don't get paid $7 million
right?
a year to do any of this stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got cut off by Drew Rosenhaus for top 30 visits. So we didn't get to do that. We don't know what's in his heart and look him in the eye and that sort of thing. And that's what John says is the toughest thing, and they have the opportunity to do it. So we'll see where they go with that. If Jalen Carter's even available at that point, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm fine now at this point. I'm going to trust John. Everything I've heard, I trust him. Next one on the Razor's Edge, Adam. Here's something I've heard, and I saw a good example of this today on Field Goals with Frank that writes there. It was kind of an interesting, another example, but people are all over the place on this. First round, trade up, trade down, or hold. Trade up, trade down, or hold. And you can go pick 5 and 20. I don't know what your preference is. But maybe especially pick 5. I think a lot of people are kind of homing in on that right now. What's your hopes there? What do you hope gets done with that pick?
Well, some of the earlier rumors is that they were going to trade up to 3 with the Arizona Cardinals and then select Anthony Richardson. I've been on record how I feel about that and how unlikely that I think that is to actually happen. But trade up, stay the same, trade down. I think trade up is a bad idea. We are not in a position that we need to do that. We're not super desperate for one of the quarterbacks or really any of these players. So why would you give up the extra draft capital, extra scratch offs later on in this draft just to pick a little higher in this one? And maybe the argument is that there isn't as many blue chippers in this draft as maybe past drafts. That's kind of the general consensus. But I don't want to see him trade up. Stay the same. I'd say that's probably like an 80%. No, that's a little too high. 65% likelihood. We'll see if there's a team like the Raiders or somebody like that who gets real desperate on draft day and want to move up, say, from 7 to 5 or something like that. If they can trade back only a few spots, anywhere to where they stay within that top 12 or so that they're guaranteed one of those blue chip players in this draft, then I'd be fine with them.
If you trade with Tennessee to 11, I mean, you're going to get some serious, you're going to get some serious stock back either for this year or next year.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that most likely what you're getting in return, as far as the high end stuff, the first round stuff, is going to be for next year. And in that case, I'm still okay with it, because I do think we're 2 drafts away from, or 2 off seasons away from being able to hoist the Lombardi. Maybe they get it there a year early this year, but it does feel like we could use one more.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, so you expect it's about 65% that we're going to stay.
Yes.
How are you percentage-wise, like what you would prefer as far as stay or drop down?
Um,
Because I know you don't prefer to trade up, no doubt, but I'm curious
yeah,
on that.
I'd say it's 50-50, to be honest. Like,
Oh,
if they
okay.
stayed, great. If they decide to trade back, then fine. That means that the guy that they thought was a major difference maker isn't there on the board any longer, and they feel like they can get equal or close to equal talent a little later on and add an extra piece. Sure. Yeah, trade down, I'd be fine too.
Okay. Next question. We go away from the draft just a little bit, if you don't mind. I got something wrong on our last What If show that we did where we were looking at our confidence of the position groups, which I hope you got a chance to listen to. I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of hear from our three Seahawker voices on how they're confident in offense and defense. We finished up with defense, but Brandon and I both said that the Seahawks declined someone's fifth-year option, and that, of course, is Jordan Brooks. Actually, they have until May 3rd to decide on that, which is kind of a factor going into the draft a little bit. And when you consider him, it turns out they have till May 3rd. It would cost us $12.722 million next year. Joel Curry, who's kind of somebody that knows some stuff, he says it'd be a good idea. What do you think, Adam? Because people are kind of back and forth on this, whether he's worth it or not. In fact, I think I'm hearing more that he's not than he is, but that just could be where my ears are at. How do you feel, Adam? Should we go ahead and stick that on him? Because if we do, there's no out other than a trade. We have to pay him the full amount if we decide to take that option.
Yeah, you have to pay him that full amount, but for 1 year, there's no long-term commitment there. You get to see for another year how his knee is doing and how he fits in with whatever new pieces come in. It's funny because linebacker is a lot like receiver in some ways, and where the success of receiver really depends a ton on the offensive line and then on the quarterback and on and on, right?
Like a running back.
Yeah, they need all the support in front of them to then be able to showcase their talents fully. And I feel like that's where Jordan Brooks's play last year, why it was not as good as we would hoped. Like, he still had a nice season and he made a lot of plays, but they didn't seem to be the big time, tackles for loss and just being a F up the play kind of guy and that sort of thing. Just kind of, doing what you need to do, making the tackle when you kind of are supposed to, and not a lot in coverage. And I think a lot of that was because the defensive interior line had a difficult time keeping blocks off of him. And especially with Barton, who always seemed to run the wrong freaking way. He just didn't have any help. So I think he's still a very good player. He's very fast. He's very physical. And I think paired with maybe Bobby rather than Barton, all of a sudden, now you got to stoop, right? Like that's good stuff there. But they may draft another linebacker in this draft to kind of, backstop that. Maybe they don't pick it up. I'd pick it up. It's only $12 million for 1 year.
Okay.
And then you can move on. But if they do draft somebody in the draft, I think we all agree the linebacker must have a last name that starts with B.
Okay. Yeah, that's key. And that's a lot that he had to deal with this past year when you think about it. He's wearing the green dot, so he's trying to put everybody in position. He's dealing with another guy that doesn't seem to, like, if there was an S2 score, I can't imagine he got, anywhere above 15% or always seemed to not know the right place. It seemed like his next door inside linebacker had all the talent, the speed, all those things, but he just was misplaced so often. So that make it pretty tough. Not to mention you get no push from up the middle. That's like the hardest thing to do for a linebacker in the run game and the pass game, because then those dump offs either direction are so easy when the quarterback has no concern for pressure up the middle. So he was dealing with a lot. I could see that. All right, let's switch over. I know you think so highly of Twitter, Adam. All the Seahawks fans know that. What do you say about Twitter? If it's on Twitter, what?
It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter.
We're going to put that to the test. And because you always say that, I'm going to let you say that matters or doesn't matter. Now, just because I found it on Twitter doesn't mean it couldn't be found somewhere else. So when you say it matters, you're not going against your principles, I guess. You could still be saying it matters, but that's not because it's on Twitter. But I do have some things from Twitter that I thought were interesting, and I want to hear your take on it. And we're calling it That Matters Doesn't Matter. Bob Condota, he says that we got a great shot, the Seahawks, of getting a difference-making linebacker. We've just been talking about linebackers in this draft, and I went and looked. There are some really good ones that we probably could get in the second or third round. Maybe one Sanders might go in the first, but there's also Smith, Simpson, Campbell, Sewell, Henley. If you've heard that guy talk from Washington State, he is hilarious. I don't know if you get on the Discord. I posted some of his clips. He's like one of the funniest college guys I've ever heard talk. But there are some good ones with different pluses and minuses. What do you think about getting a difference-making linebacker in this draft Thursday or Friday?
Well, it'd be nice to get one, especially if they could pick one up late. I've heard a few guys talk about Simpson, like he would be a great fit and that sort of thing. I haven't looked much at him or anything like that. But in terms of whether this matters or doesn't matter, I want to be petty and just say none of them matter.
None of them matter because they're Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But that just wouldn't be true. No, it does matter if they pick up a linebacker in this draft and one that can at least be a depth backstop. With Jordan Brooks hit the report on his knee, and what Pete talked about the other day was that his recovery is on track and he thinks he might be available week 1. That sounds just mind blowing. Like it'd be difficult to think that would happen, but looks like it might. So if that's true, and you've got Bush, Brooks, and Bobby, and then you can pick up one linebacker in the 4th to help be a backstop there for injury and that sort of thing, plus whoever else you bring in after, rookie free agency and post June 1st cuts and things like that, I think you'd be just fine.
So you're more thinking you'd like some depth, not a big difference maker second or third round. Well, not one of these top 6 guys.
I just don't often feel like you get difference makers in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Now, John hits more home runs there than most GMs, but it's
that's why I'm asking.
Unlikely.
That's why I'm asking. You don't want to go for a second, third round difference maker, one of these top 6 guys in the second. You'd rather save that for other positions, you think?
I would. I'm at the point in my football watching life is to where linebacker, I don't see the point in paying them the highest dollar or spending the highest draft capital on them, because really their effectiveness is all about who's in front of them.
Okay. Another tweet, Corbin Smith, a couple days ago, he said, we can get 3 first rounders. I just saw it done. We can get 3 first rounders. I mentioned Frank on field goals, and that was part of how he did it. He traded down to, I believe it was 10, swapped a couple seconds. He ended up with pick 10, pick 20, and pick 30. Do you think that's a good call to try to get 3 picks in the first round? Do you think that matters if we do that? How do you feel about that tweet, Adam?
I guess if you ended up with 2 firsts that were somehow above top 14.
Oh, okay.
If you could do that, then sure, that would matter. But honestly, no, that doesn't matter, because the variance in how all these teams view the players from about, I don't know, let's just pick a number, somewhere about 18 in the first round down through the end of the second round or even the third round. The variance on how these players are graded is really large, and but there's not a huge consensus. So I don't understand giving up more lottery tickets, say early in the second, to move up a few spots just to jump back into the first, when now you're dealing with kind of the same tier of players anywhere in there. So you can get somebody of similar talent and value, say at, the 5th pick in the second round, as you can at 21 in the first round. It's just a matter of who happens to be there.
The reason I say it might matter a little bit, Adam, just a little pushback. When John Schneider trades back up, how has he done with that? Have you been excited about the players he's got when he's traded back up?
Jeez, who would that have been for? Oh my, like that's on the clock stuff that I don't think I was prepared for that.
Tyler Lockett's the first one that I think of. Not into the first, but he did trade. He did trade back up to get Tyler Lockett. In fact, he packaged quite a few later picks to do that. So that's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, and it does make sense. And we have enough holes to where if they feel like they can grab that one more player at corner, or another edge guy, or another solid guard / tackle, be hard to pass up. I
Yeah.
can see that, but I think those guys exist with the multiple picks that they have going forward. Thank you, Denver. And
Yes.
yeah, I think.
Can you name another big one? I know everybody's
I
yelling
can't.
into their whatever their
Yes.
listening devices right now. They are yelling another one. It's a recent one. I said Tyler Lockett. Think along. There's a hint there. There's another one we traded back into the end of the second round for.
Oh, that was for DK? Yeah.
For DK, yeah.
Yeah.
So when Snyder loves somebody, I think I might love them too. So if he's going to trade back up, yeah, I could see some excitement. Plus, I'd like to get a lot of these blue chippers, like you're pointing out, top 50 or 60 are a lot of the best players. If we can get more players in the top 50 that can make a difference now, I think that could be a good thing. I think that could be a good thing for our team rather than just what he used to do some of those years, just keep trading back until we have 8 zillion fifth and sixth rounders that are just trying out to become depth pieces.
Yep.
Okay. How about this one? Seahawks Twitter. This is Seahawks Twitter themselves. They're showing B-Wags and Daryl Taylor working out together. What might that portend, Adam? Does it matter?
Wow. This is the stuff on Twitter that that gives me the opinion if it happens on Twitter, it doesn't matter. Because
that's where the saying comes from. Okay.
I mean, this is the type of stuff, right? And don't get me wrong, they're fun stories. I understand that, but it's basically akin to, oh my, Russell Wilson this year is 10 pounds lighter to try to increase his speed again, or this guy's faster than he's ever been, or this guy's stronger than he's ever been. And the same, we're going to have 15 of them for the Seahawks. These stories pop up here once we get closer to camp and that sort of thing. This is one of those to me. They have known each other, like, obviously when Bobby was on the team before. And I mean, what are you really going to get out of that? I mean, that you haven't already gotten already. I don't know what it is. I just don't think this matters. Like, maybe they had a great time together. That's great.
That I was trying to throw you a softball there, Adam. I thought that'd be a great chance for you to say one of your favorite sayings there.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Q Diggs and Sherman tweeted each other a little video they had going. There was a lot on that interview, but this was a part that was their favorite. They were talking about Pete Carroll on opening game last year, running through a whiteboard to kick off the season and get him fired up to play Russell Wilson. How do you feel about Coach Carroll, 71 years of age, running through a whiteboard? Does that matter?
I just need to know, man. Did they kind of pre-score the back of the whiteboard to be sure he could get through that thing, or was Pete just
inquiring minds want to know, Adam? Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know. I don't know.
Just ran through that bad boy. I actually think this matters. I love this. When this was the first I had heard of it, and the idea that Pete Carroll, before that game, let's just remember, put on our time machine hats here real quick, what the league and the moment felt like in that time period where Russ was gone. Everybody thought we got hosed on the trade. It was all Pete Carroll's fault that it didn't work in Seattle. Then it's Denver and Russ coming into our house on week 1 after maybe the biggest gut-wrenching trade in Seahawks history. And you knew Pete wanted it. You knew he wanted it bad. He talked it all down and everything like that. And his actions speak louder than his words. Barreling through a whiteboard. If I see old Pete Carroll barreling through a whiteboard before that game, I'm going to be fired up. And the team obviously was. And they went out there and they won what I felt, and I think you did too, Phil, was our Super Bowl.
Yeah. You imagine if Rabel was calling the locker room during that. He would have given a holy catfish for that right there.
Yes. Yes. No, for sure. And it also just demonstrates how Pete Carroll at this age is still able to do what he needs to do to fire up players and relate to younger players and things like that. And it's such a unique talent, and it's easy to write it off and be like, he can't do this for that much longer. I don't know. Maybe he can.
Yeah, that does inspire you to think he can keep going. Okay, Sports on Tap, Seattle. They had a little picture they put together, and they showed the absolute historic, legendary number 31 on a rookie that they are promoting, Mr. Will Anderson, wearing the awesome as far as one of the great players to ever wear this particular iteration of our uniform, number 31, that would be Will Anderson's number. That's what it has been. How would you feel to see Will Anderson wearing number 31 going into this season, Adam?
And it would all depend. Actually, I'm going to just take my cue from Cam on this one. So, because there's two aspects to this question, right? One is, how would you feel about Will Anderson being on the team? Obviously, because
it's a double pronger.
The number. Yeah. And then also, like, okay, he's wearing 31. Like, how does that make you feel? I would have to defer to Cam on that one. If I'm Cam, I'm telling him, you pick 32, bro. Like, that one's mine. Really? Like, yo, heck yeah, dude, 100%. But as far as having Will Anderson on the team, this is where people feel about Jalen Carter. This is maybe the one that I have the most trepidation about, because I have a hard time evaluating the position on the college level. Like, it's just tough for me to do. I'm not great at it. So I have to rely on what other people seem to think about these edge picks. And Will Anderson's one of those where either, his production was amazing, he's can't miss, like high floor, good character, all that stuff. He's going to be a great player for a long time. Or the other narrative is, he played on Alabama, just played in a good scheme and really fed off the talent around him. And when he had to play top tier competition, kind of disappeared. And I don't know which it is. You got Brock Heward saying, trade the farm and go up and pick him. And then you've got Chris Sims saying, he's my fifth edge guy. And he's like in a third tier or a fourth tier compared to the other guys. He's got the most Aaron Curry potential to me in terms of supposed to be really good, but then turns out to just be, and Aaron Curry was like legit bad. I think Will Anderson's floor is more like, he's all right. So that scares me. I don't know if he's a blue chipper or not. I really don't. How do you feel about Will Anderson?
Oh, I would love it. I'd be so stoked. I'd be fine with him wearing 31 because the quality of human he is. And I think he could be a good leader for years to come. And I mean, the guy just produces. His year previous dominated in pressures, sacks, every kind of way. The next year, there was a number of factors. I mean, it was still great production. The only reason anybody's denigrating his production from this past year is that it was less from his historic production before. And you put his whole career, at Alabama. I mean, it's unparalleled. Not to mention every single game was homing in, keying in on him. I know his, like the numbers they run, he's more like top medium on a lot of the testing numbers. But when you talk production, you watch his snaps, and I haven't watched every single snap Will Anderson has taken, but you just watch his snaps, and he's making difference after difference after difference. I'm not saying back to back to back snaps, but in so many times he is doing things. He's affecting the quarterback. I would be absolutely stoked. Yeah, then we'd have a lot of outside linebackers. So, I mean, what a bummer. We have too many players at a position that matters a lot. Maybe we could trade. Maybe we could figure out a way to make something work. I think that's the only argument I kind of see is, hey, we already have a lot of guys there, but the reality is not for very many more years. I mean, Wosu's on his last, hopefully he gets extended. Taylor's on his last. Mafe is coming out, and we got him for a while, but even guys coming back from injury, this is their last year. So you don't think the fact that we have so many at the position's a problem, do you, Adam?
You can never have enough quality edge players in the NFL. Yeah. You just can't. And think about how much that we had issues with in containing the wide zone run against the Niners, and just getting our hearts torn out by that.
And he is excellent. He is excellent at those outside runs.
And then you have me sold. Like, I can talk to about anybody, like the pro Will Anderson people. When they're done talking, I'm like, okay. And then I'll listen to people that are anti Will Anderson. I'm like, oh geez, no, we could stay away. I honestly, this is one where I have to be in wishy-washyville, because I don't think I have the expertise or background knowledge.
Yeah, I'm not an expert.
Feel good about it.
I'm not an expert.
Well, no, you might be better at looking at edge than I am. Like, there's certain positions, right? Like my buddy Jared, he's great at judging safeties.
Oh yeah, I just want a reliable guy that the other teams have a problem with. A guy that every team says we got to do something about stopping him. I don't feel like we have that on the edge. And the most negative I've heard about Anderson is, well, he's rated too high. If he was mid first round, I'm fine. But top of the first round. That's the most negative that I have heard. I haven't heard anybody say he shouldn't be a first rounder. I've yet to hear that. Maybe you have, but
Chris Sims, he's got him pretty low.
Okay. I don't listen to Chris Sims, but okay. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I get it.
Something we looked at the first time we recorded this, I won't take as much time this time, but just this idea of a perfect draft and then mock drafts in general. And mock drafts in general, do they matter or do they not matter? Everybody tweets their mock draft. How do you feel about that, Adam? In fact, there's a lot of podcasts where they just kind of go through, now let's see who we're going to pick together. Who would you like to pick? I don't know. What do you think about that, Adam?
I mean, I feel like it's playtime and dress up and pretend. Like that's how I feel about it. Like, let's sit down. Well, today I'm the Arizona Cardinals, and this is who I'm picking. Like, for the most part, I think they're ludicrous. If you can predict all the trades and the different conversations and all that go on behind the scenes, like, bless your heart, but I don't think you can. If you can, open a 1-900 line and be the next Miss Cleo and make your fortune. Like, there's just no way that anybody gets close on these, especially in a year like this. So overall, I think they don't matter. But I will say that recently, I have found, because preparing more this year, because we're doing more content and having to up my draft game, because that's out of all the seasons of the year regarding football, that is my weakest. I don't really watch college football. It bores the hell out of me. I have found that mock drafts are useful in the sense of you get an idea of the consensus of who the top 30, 40 guys are. You know, you got guys that fall in and out, but the rest of it, I don't find it fun. Like, oh, the Seahawks trade at 5 to and in the title always is Seahawks trade out of 5 with, Titans. And it's like, no, they didn't. No, they did in your mind, in your little land of imagination. Like, get on the train on Mr. Rogers and go to mock draftville. Like, I don't get it.
I think they're fun for the person doing them. I cannot possibly understand why they're fun for other people to read someone else's playtime. Like, I can enjoy my little daughters telling me their make-believe, but I don't want to hear your daughter. I don't want to hear your daughter tell me all her make-believe-isms. And I mean, and I definitely don't want to hear a grown man tell me about his make-believe-isms. But I think they're kind of fun for me to do and enjoy myself. I just don't know how much other people are going to enjoy you and I getting on there and doing a little draft together.
No, and if you did, then you've got a sickness that needs to be looked into. Like, there's professionals that can help you.
As far as a group of reports out there, there's quite a few reports as of today. They're kind of saying that if Anderson is gone, the expectation from what the whispers are, now the Seahawks are good at false whispering, is it'll come down to Richardson or Carter. How do you feel about those reports? You think they're bogus, or do you think that's actually where the Seahawks are leaning if Anderson's gone?
I mean, does that mean Tyree Wilson's gone too? Does that mean Miles Murphy is gone as well? Does that mean Devin Witherspoon is gone?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're saying those are the Hawks. Those are the Hawks' 2 or 3 after Anderson. That's kind of the consensus that they are feeling about the Seahawks hopes for this draft. But I don't know if it's bogus or not. That's just someone was putting together a group of reports based on whispers.
Yeah, if there was a world in which somehow Richardson fell to 20, or they even traded up a little bit from 20 and then went and got him, that would make a little sense to me, and I wouldn't be mad about it. To pick him at 5, I think, is close to malfeasance. Like, I just think that that's a terrible idea. When I just went back and I watched 49ers Seahawks playoff game, and to see us up at half, to only be down 7 at the beginning of the 4th, and then to watch just the damn break and the defense be just a massive problem that made it impossible for us to stay in that game. And then Geno had to start to push, and then it really got out of control. And I don't know how you go back and watch that game and be like, yep, Geno was the problem. Him and DK were the most dominant players on the stage that day for the Seahawks. Yeah. So I just, for the life of me, to take a quarterback at 5 when quarterback is maybe on a 22 position roster, is maybe your 20th problem.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No doubt about it for this roster. Yeah, it would definitely be future mindset because front seven is undoubtedly our biggest issue right now. Oh, well,
yeah.
Depending on where you put nickel, but yeah, front seven is nickel is included in front seven because when sub out, you got the nickel in. That's our issue, right?
Yeah, that's how it feels to me. Now, the pushback I always get is, well, you're anti-future because you don't want Anthony Richardson. You're anti for the future. No, I'm for winning now and winning forever. Why can't we go and pick up Hendon Hooker later in the first if you're really concerned about quarterback over the next, however many years? How come we can't go get DTR out of UCLA at some point, take a flyer on him? Well, you'll never be a 5 again. Oh yeah, you know that, huh? Like that's the one that you're definitely not going to be there again. Well, if this Geno stuff fails over the next year or two, then yeah, we'll be close enough to make a run at any quarterback. And I just think Richardson's 3 years away. I just don't get it.
So if
it's Stroud, they keep saying that he might be falling, and they pick him at 5, I think you have to do it. You pull
that's one of my new ones.
He's the next Warren Moon.
That's one of my new ones. I was going to ask something else about Richardson, but now that you brought up Stroud, I got to go to the new one here. Okay. This is the question. Peter King and those at NFL Rookie Watch, they were tweeting together. They say Stroud is no longer a lock first at 5. And then Peter King says, I don't think he's a lock to go in the top 7. Why? He got an 18% on his S2 score, and 18% on his S2 score. If you don't know what S2 is, it means it measures an athlete's game speed and cognitive abilities at the millisecond level. They say not all high scores are good. Not everybody quarterback gets a good high score is good, but no quarterback with a bad score has succeeded yet. And guess who was top on the S2 score last year? Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. How do you feel about this S2 score, and how does it make you reconsider your feelings about Stroud, Adam?
Well, so I don't know how much you'd heard about S2 scores before the last week or so, but I can tell you it was a 0% for me. I'd never heard of this. Like the test I had always heard about was a Wonderlic, and I'm sure they still do that, but it sounds like they put up like some bouncing balls on the screen and you can see what you can track or don't track, or I don't know what it is. But here's my problem with the S2 scores in general, in the way that they are portrayed. And good for S2 because keep getting them checks, buds. But they have done a really smart job.
I've always wanted to have a test like that. I'm thinking, how quick can you process information? I'm like, that sounds like a cool thing to test. So I don't know how they do it, but I wonder about it. You've seen how they do it, Adam?
I've seen like a little example of it, right?
Oh,
and
cool.
It's not like it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton more to it, and they're researchers and all that stuff. But my qualms with it from a scientific standpoint is all the data that we get back is the cherry picked data. Yeah. Well, what about this guy? How did Baker Mayfield do? Well, we can't release that. Like it's proprietary and blah, blah, blah. Well, what about, Josh Allen? Well, he scored well. I'll tell you that. He scored well. Well, how well? Like, and then so you can do that, right? To where you avoid all these questions. And then you have one of the founders himself come out on PFF on one of their podcasts and say, take with a big grain of salt what you're hearing about different scores and stuff that have been leaked, because most of them are false. All the QBs in this draft scored pretty high. And it's like, well, okay, so did he score an 18 percentile or did he score something different? We don't know. And between that and then the narrative of, he blew off the Mannings at the Manning camp.
Oh,
okay. What petty schoolgirl crap are we getting into at this point that would affect this guy's draft status?
Episode of Clueless.
Only that, he was practicing with his team instead. It's not like he went to Vegas like Ryan Leaf or something, right?
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable. I find this to be, I can't believe it. Like, when did we forget that these guys are football players, in that your best measure of whether or not they can play football is how they play football? Yeah. Like, just go look back at that. Because to me, the biggest knock that I hear from Stroud is he doesn't play off schedule well or out of the pocket very well. It's like, okay, well, let's see if that's true. So you go back and you look, what they should say is he doesn't do it often. But the idea that he does it poorly, and his accuracy does dip a bit, but everybody's does. Like, I feel like these are these false narratives that are blowing up to drive his draft stock down. I don't get it. He's easily the best prospect in this class. It's not even close. I'll say it one more time. The way he throws the football and how tight that ball is, it looks like Warren Moon.
Sure.
Like, mobile
but
enough.
Is he Jeff George? Like,
no.
Is his processor broken? That's the thing. I'm curious, because I haven't watched him a lot other than the big games. And you want to find out if they come up with a test and a report, does the tape match it? Is he one of these guys, first read, he's great, and then you have no idea what's going to happen after the first read? That drives me crazy. I can't stand my quarterback that can't do more than one read. But you don't think he's that?
Oh, God, no. Go back and watch. Pick any game. Penn State even was like not a great game for him, and their receivers didn't help him a lot. And there were some things that happened, but even take a bad game and you can watch him on most dropbacks. He'll go back there and watch the stripe on the back of his helmet while he's back in the pocket. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, back to 2, whatever it is, right? He goes through the progressions and he usually makes the right read.
Cool.
He can be fooled at times. But I mean, even the great Aaron Rodgers, who I just see here on the little notification badge, is now a New York Jet.
Ding, ding. Okay.
Yeah, he gets tricked sometimes. We all do. We over nitpick these guys in.
That's what we have to do, right? I mean, if you can't pick nits,
sure.
Then
but you go, well, he can't play out of structure. He can't play out of the pocket. And it's like, well, wait a second. The 2 biggest games of his career, that's exactly what he did, and he did it very well. So from what I see is he doesn't do it very often because he's trying to be a pocket quarterback, and he's reluctant to do the other stuff because he doesn't want to be a scrambler and a runner and all that stuff. And he's not the fastest. He's fast enough. He's got functional mobility, and he's big. I don't get it. I'd take Stroud in a heartbeat. If he falls to 5, you just do it and you work around it. And it's still a bummer that you're not.
So you are a future guy. You are a future guy, Adam.
Yeah,
if you
it's
believe
just
in
not Anthony Richardson for me, or Bill Levis, or Bryce Young, who's basically
number
Gardner
1.
Minshew. Yeah,
he's going number 1. I think. Yeah,
I don't know why. I could just light that pick on fire.
The question everybody wants to know, Adam, if Schneider picks Richardson at 5, do you ahead of time decide you're going to trust Schneider more than Adam? Or are you going to say, oh, he is wrong because I know I'm right. Stroud's the guy. He should have taken Richardson. How do you feel that you will be thinking on Thursday night if they do take Richardson?
Well, I think it's going to be very much like my mindset with Rashad Penny when he was drafted. I hated the pick. I was like, I don't get it. He's a guy that has a lot of broken tackles, right? And you go back and watch the tape, and it's a lot of ankle tackles. He's just not very physical. And now, while he finally put it together his last season after talking with AP and all that stuff, and actually used his physicality, his first few years, he was a finesse runner in a big dude's body who always was injured. And I hated the pick. But with that said, every time Rashad Penny got on the field, or we talked about him going forward after he was now a Seahawk, I'm rooting for the guy. And it turns out he's a fantastic human. You try not to love Rashad Penny when you listen to him talk. I dare you. It's not possible. He's a nice kid, but hated the pick. So if Anthony Richardson gets drafted at 5, I'm going to hate the pick.
Okay.
I'm going to hate it.
So you've decided
the number 1 Anthony Richardson fan is now? This guy right here. I've got to try to get on board and be in that little fantasy bubble of the 15 amazing throws that he had over his college career. And I'm dead serious, about 15 of them. Then he's going to be an NFL quarterback, and that's going to come to fruition on the NFL field. It just, I'm going to win the Powerball twice before that happens.
Okay. So you've decided you are going to trust Adam more than John, at least about the Richardson pick. Kind of like me on the Drew Lock. Like, I am decided that was a terrible decision. I don't know why we have him here. I don't ever expect to see anything except bummers if Geno gets hurt this year. As a rule, though, I trust John Snyder. I just don't like what I've seen from him. And that's how you feel that way. You're going to cheer for him but you're sure that it's not a good pick, even if we take it.
I think it's bad for the present. I think it's bad for the future. It's just the likelihood of it being a good pick is so darn low. You can't be taking big gambles at the top of the draft like this with so few blue chip players to be had. And if you look at John's history, and we did a hot takes on that a couple of weeks ago, like go back and look, like he doesn't take gambles when he gets the higher his draft pick gets, the chalkier it gets.
Yeah, you're right. That's great. You're right. Well, that's all I have on matters, doesn't matter, Razor's Edge, some of those key things. 3 days, everyone. I don't know when you're going to have this in your ears, how long it'll take Adam to do the magic and get it out there, get it in your eyes.
We're hoping Tuesday. Tuesday. Yeah.
Cool.
Late in the day.
What does everybody need to do, Adam, before we sign off here?
Man, what you need to do is ignore us. Definitely do not hit subscribe. No likes. Do dislikes, man. Of course. Like, why wouldn't you? Don't tell your friends. Share it. I dare you not to. Just don't do it.
Avoid us like.
Did you lose me? Yeah.
I lost you for a second. Avoid us like Adam avoids Anthony Richardson.
And Twitter.
Love us. And Twitter. Love us like Phil loves Will Anderson.
There we go. Or not. And yes. So with all of that, man, like we appreciate you guys listening. We got let's see, what else do we have coming out this week? Brandon and I just did the flagship show yesterday. That will be in your inbox anywhere you get a podcast. Like you can find us anywhere. We'll be dropping clips on YouTube of the full show this week as well. That's awesome. Something new that we're gonna give a go at.
I can't wait to see that.
Into the long form stuff, and you want to see our faces while we do the show. I don't know why you would, but okay, we can do that. We've got this obviously coming out, and we're gonna do. Oh yeah, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Phil, we're doing a live show for the first round of the draft, man, and I know you're gonna be there.
Yes.
Brandon and Clinton are gonna pop in here and there. I'm trying to get with Wilson too, see if he'll pop on. We'll get all the voices here on the Seahawks podcast channel, and we'll all celebrate together, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's like a double Christmas this Thursday. Well, everyone,
it's like a double Christmas, and I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say, Adam.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.